Welcome back. I am actually going to start this part with some listener emails before I get to the quickies and then Batgirl's number 9. So, from episode 223, I do have a few YouTube comments and then 2 emails. And of course, if you recall, part 2 came out before part 1, which is going to be true of this as well. So, the first comment is from Hornacek. And they say it could be in other movies slash Bat movies, but the scene you described with Nightwing shooting a grappling hook and swinging his motorcycle reminded me of a scene from the 1989 Batman movie where Batman is in the Batmobile being chased by the Joker's goons, and he has to make a sharp turn. So the Batmobile shoots a grappling hook and attaches to a lamppost, and he's able to make the turn. The Joker's goons don't make the turn and crash. If you search for Batman Batmobile grappling hook 1989 on YouTube, you should find a 6-second clip of this. And that was exactly the scene that I was thinking of. So thank you for coming to my rescue and reminding me of what I was thinking when I was reading that scene. Hornacek also says the only quote rain ruin end quote reference I could find was of a 2022 video game, probably the same one you mentioned, a first person shooter walking simulator type psychological horror game. Lost in the mountains and sheltering from the rain in her ruin, she had no choice but to reveal her night in the ruins. As she relies on her smartphone's lights to explore the pitch black ruins, she hears a cry out of nowhere. And that was all quotation, a synopsis, I suppose. And no idea if slash how this would apply to this step scene. Yeah, that certainly sounds like a mix of that demo, that the playable demo that was from the guy who did the guy who did Metal Gear Solid, and oh, that's not good. I know his name, but I can't remember it. So I can't remember what that sim was that you can't get anymore, but it was this demo that you could do that was horrifying. But it sounds like a mix of that and then also Alan Wake, because of course you have to use flashlights in Alan Wake. And from 223 part 1, FYI, episode 1 from 12 years ago, here we go, was a couple of seconds under 26 minutes long, so close to that under 20 minutes claim. Well, thank you, Hornacek, for keeping me or holding me accountable. And I think the final comment comes from one of my friends. At least he likes to call me that, Harry Shoot. And he corrected me because I couldn't remember what the Predator game was called. And of course, I've been playing with him at its Predator Fire Team Hunt. I don't think that's what it is. It's called Hunting Ground. So he was trying to troll me. He said Predator colon Fire Team Hunting. I did the best I could. I've actually been playing Aliens Fire Team Elite. I think that's what it's called with Harry, and that has been a lot of fun as well. And yeah, unfortunately, if I play late at night, not the Predator game, that hadn't had any adverse effects, but the Aliens Fire Team Elite, if I play late at night and then immediately go to bed, there have been 2 times that I've like woken up in a panic and thought that this shadow in front of my closet was in fact a xenomorph that was hanging out there. So I either can't play it right before bed or I need to do something in between watching or playing and going to bed. So last time I read a chapter of a book and then went to bed. So that worked out. And I will think of the man's name who did. Oh man. I'll think of it before someone corrects me. So, anyways, or tells me who it is. From my Earth 2 BFF, we've got one email from her and then an email from somebody else. So, Shayna says, BFF Stella, there's definitely much better queer representation in media these days. I haven't seen an instance of gay panic in anything recently, though in my experience, there is still a bit of queer baiting and stereotyping that happens. Yeah, I would agree. I think, the most recent queer baiting episode was most likely Finn and Poe, because it seemed like it was a will they won't they, and then they did not. And I haven't seen it, but I had heard of some really terrible queer baiting because it seemed like they were really pushing for it and Teen Wolf and then never pulled the trigger. And I will say that because Shayna does also in a later email, but I'll probably just stick with this big one. Ask me what I think about Paper Girls. And there's certainly some gay panic in Paper Girls, though it's warranted with what's going on. And I will say, without spoiling anything about the Amazon series, that I loved Paper Girls, and Tom and I recorded a special on his pop culture affidavit over at the Two True Freaks on that series because a couple years ago we had talked about the comic series. So if you're interested in hearing our thoughts and having a discussion about that, then go over there. I think it's supposed to come out next week. So I guess when, the same week as this episode is dropping. So continuing the email, I also don't recall Batgirls being promised as a cast staff book. I thought the focus was supposed to be on all three of them. Same, at least that was the impression I got from Cloonan and Conrad. I think from what I heard around, some fans are upset because some of the covers have led them to think otherwise, i.e. variants for number one that only had Cass and Steph on them. Also, if you think about the main cover for this one, I tried to find some more evidence for this being marketed as a Cass Steph book and asked around, but couldn't find any other answers. That being said, we had a Steph arc for the first 6 issues, and these last 2 issues don't seem to focus on any individual Batgirl in particular. So I don't really understand where this feud is coming from, but perhaps this conversation is more complicated than I am giving it credit for. It seemed like that Twitter conversation was getting pretty hot and heavy. I decided to stay out of it, of course. I think I just had pointed out that if you really want to have an argument, then you need to have someone count all the panels with people in it, especially with Babs and seeing how many panels she's in it, because I think that it's supposed to be a team book. That was my impression from everything. And I was a little put off just the fact that it didn't seem as team oriented as it was initially solicited as, because it did seem Cass and Steph heavy, and that's fine. But if you're saying it's a team, then I think there should be some equality there, but maybe the writing team is just kind of getting to understand what they actually want to do and will start to do it, because I feel like with issue 9 it was pretty equal with, let me think if that's a true statement or not. I'll get back to you now that I'm thinking about that. But, the cover for 9 just shows Steph and Cass. So we'll see. I have very little to say about Batgirl's number 8. For as big of a threat as Seer was when the series began, I felt a little let down about how things ended with her. Do you think we'll see her again? It doesn't seem to me that Barbara would admire her. I agree with you. I think a better description would be to have compassion or empathy for Seer, some of my favorite words. I guess if there is any admiration for Seer or Calculator for that matter, it would be for their skill with a computer. All the best, Shannon. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. That admire word was just, it's interesting because when I think about admire, and had I thought about this earlier, I would have done some research on language of origin, which if I were to guess, I would say Latin, and miror, mirare, or admiror, and which is like wonderment or amazement. It should be, and that, having that prefix towards somebody. And that usually, of course, leads to wanting to not necessarily become them, but certainly act similarly to them. And I don't think, Barbara is a grown woman, so I don't think necessarily that is. Yes, I think looking at that computer setup and seeing how young Seer is, she might show respect, like masters, mad respect for what you've done with this at such a young age, but admire is not necessarily the word that I would use. And I do feel like we'll see her again. I think there was so much buildup, not only in this book, of course, but with everything that was going on in Fear State, that seems like a terrible waste of a character. And it may have already been just because of how much buildup it was for in Fear State. And then coming over here, you're like, this is going to be the big bad that'll last for 30 issues or something. So I think that Sierra will pop up again. I think Sierra will be doing some machinations in the background, maybe the arch nemesis of the team that just repeatedly pops up and uses other agents. And then you find out, oh my gosh, would you believe it's the Kingpin? No, it's the Seer. So I imagine that I will see her, or we will see her again. Okay. And then thanks, Shayna, for writing in. And then our final email is from Adam Rogers. And he says, and you know what I need to ask people, I think, to do for me in the future is if you write into me, I think you should put your pronouns, because I'm guessing, and I shouldn't probably do that. So I should just use third person and say Adam. So Adam says, but if you would like to, you can give me your pronouns just so I don't ever mess that up. But Hornacek, I'm led to believe that Hornacek might be a man, but I use they just in case. So, anyways, here we go. So Adam says, I don't see any point in a Predator movie without violence. It's literally a horror movie about an alien hunter who goes to other planets with the strict purpose of violently slaughtering the natives. If you don't want to see the violence, you might as well just not watch the movie, LOL. And then has a hands up emoji and one of the sweating nervous ones. I will say, Adam, I don't know that you necessarily listened to what I said about that. I didn't say I had any problems with the violence. I said I thought it ridiculous that in an edited version of the film, we edit out the word vagina, but we see a man's head blown off and a shield come up and take off another guy's legs. So I was unsure about what exactly should be edited and what is not. I mean, I agree with you. Yeah, a Predator is all about the violence. I knew going in what I was seeing. I've seen all the Predators before. That was a repeat viewing. So that was my point there. Also, just a recommendation for everybody. I highly recommend Prey, which was amazing and perhaps one of the most respectful representations of Native people that I've actually ever seen. But the lead character is amazing, and the Predator there is pretty amazing. And seeing the first time that the Predator comes to Earth was pretty cool. Continuing on, as for the cursing, though, words like vagina and penis aren't so much cursing as inappropriate. Although in a critical setting, literally talking about the body parts in a non crass way is a bit different. However, words like dick or pussy are cursing. I, yeah, I guess it depends on when you're using it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily drop vagina or penis in like a dinner setting. But they were on a bus and they were military people, and they were, I mean, they all had their various issues, and this guy was the jokester. So I guess they wanted to go with hoo-ha. And as for pussy that you're using, I do wonder in what context you're using it, because if you're literally talking about the vagina, that's one thing. But if you call somebody a pussy, are you aware that that is actually short for pusillanimous? I don't think many people do. I think people call someone else a pussy thinking that it's an insult because you're calling them a female, a name or word associated with female genitalia, but it is not. So just, yeah, everyone should be looking up pusillanimous to see if you're using pussy correctly. And here we go. There's a big difference between talking about literal body parts in a non-crass way and running into a room and just shouting penis or vagina, LOL, and the sweaty emoji. It's just not appropriate to talk about the privates, intimates in public. It's not the words themselves, it's the subject matter. It's like talking about gross things at the dinner table. I certainly agree with you. I think my point is more that people are more easily offended whenever vagina is used, and penis can be used in media and it won't be bleeped out or anything. As for Babs, um, admiring her villains, I don't see a problem with this. It's entirely possible to admire aspects of a person's character, like their skills and or determination, without admiring their actions. Sure, she used her skills inappropriately, but that doesn't change the fact that she's highly skilled, especially for her age. I didn't read the issue myself, so this is just my observation from what you relayed and showed on those select panels. As for the cast Batgirl run, I blame the writing. This era seems to be notorious for Batman being inconsistent with his character in other eras. Well, most other eras, sweaty emoji. At least in my experience, I'm most familiar with the Batman who is cold and calculating with a rough exterior, but who clearly cares about those around him. He may never or almost never openly admit that he was wrong, but he often accedes when he is wrong, even if he won't vocally state it, LOL, sweaty emoji. And he tends to be more tactically sound than he was portrayed near the end of the issue. Sure, he wouldn't be shooting. Sure, he wouldn't be shocked. I'm not sure what this should be. Um, he wouldn't want any loss of life, but he wouldn't put multiple civilian lives in danger to protect a single criminal. He'd protest, but realize that stopping the murder would put several others in danger. A scolding can wait until after the situation is resolved. And in the next issue, I don't see stopping a WMD as political at all. Dr. Death seems to have come from Gotham, so Bruce is only there to clean up his own mess. Politics is all about people arguing behind closed doors, while people like Dr. Death have boots on the ground, putting lives in danger. Bruce doesn't want to get caught up in the inner workings of someone else's territory. I'm not sure if that's coming from me or not about the politics, because it did seem that Bruce didn't want to get involved in what was going on in the country itself. But I don't know if you're responding to something that I said or in the issue. And I'm just trying to forget those issues, anyways, because I didn't care for them. I will say that, yeah, this Cass and Batgirl run basically is not the best. Even Donovan has said that he kind of jumped off the book or lost interest in it until a certain point of time. So I know that, my expectations are generally low now when I read that. And you're putting words into Bruce's mouth unless there's a panel you didn't show that says otherwise. He didn't say that he and Cass were not there to help people. Again, I'd stop saying WMDs is very helpful for the people of the area. Oh, again, I'd say stopping WMDs is very helpful for the people of the area. He's just getting her to focus on the mission. LOL. This isn't Gotham. He doesn't care about the petty squabbles amongst the local politicians and people in power there. He wouldn't want outsiders meddling with the inner workings of his city, particularly without permission like that either. He just wants to make sure Cass is focused on the main priority, the reason they're there, which is to stop the WMDs. The politics can be sorted out later and by locals who are both better equipped and qualified to do so, but that country doesn't have that, so they'll never get sorted out. That's from me. Then Batman and Batgirl can go back to Gotham and deal with their politics in their own city. Well, Bruce doesn't really get involved in that, and I don't know what Cass is going to do. Gotham needs constant attention. They can't drag their feet overseas dealing with something the locals can handle. That being said, if there's something small he can do that doesn't interfere with his mission, he'll likely do it anyway, but he's not about to get involved. Well, I will say that when you're driving past an area and there is a woman and two of her children or one of her children on the ground with guns to their heads, and you don't ask the people driving to stop and do something, I think that that shows some inactivity, inaction, and not helping. And I don't think that I put word. I guess I'll say two things. First of all, if you have listened to this or watched this, many people know that I am just over dramatic and exaggerate things when it comes to Batman, Bruce Wayne. And it's mostly to get at Donovan because he gets upset at it. But in that case, that was pretty well written in that bathroom scene where he said that they weren't there for that. They weren't there to help the people where they needed to help. Like they had to stop the WMD. Yes, that means helping people, but he was telling her that she couldn't help out with some of the other issues, human rights issues that were going on. So I don't think that was putting words into his mouth, but I do, get dramatic where he is involved. So it could have happened. As for her seeing people mistreated, she's been in Gotham for a while, mostly during No Man's Land, for crying out loud. Sweaty emoji. I doubt the streets look much different there. Maybe the government is less oppressive, but there are plenty of criminals with their boots on other people's necks with little regard for human life. Yeah, but she in Gotham, if she saw that, she would stop it. So I think that's the difference here, is that they're in a car and they don't stop. And in Gotham, she would have done something about a gun being put to the head of a mother and her child. The writers aren't pairing up Batman and Batgirl. They're just showing how base and vile the criminals are, that the criminals, would do so. Well, I guess Bruce Timm actually paired them up, but let's just try and forget about that. And there's a nauseous emoji and some eyeballs, but also not to give the villains too much credit, and then maybe a rolling eye, I don't know. But it's unlikely they can tell Batgirl's age with her face completely covered. Yeah. I don't know what to say. The fact that it is coming from a villain is one thing, but the writers wrote that, so I guess that would be, why would that even be in their head? I think is my question. Why would you even go there? There are other things that you could potentially say. Continuing on, I don't think it's homophobic at all to be offended that someone thinks you're something that you're not. Homosexuals would likely not appreciate being paired with someone of the opposite sex either. LOL. Does that make them heterophobic? No, that's just how it works. Obviously, this does not apply to bisexuals. Now, if you shiver every time the subject is brought up or you're sickened by witnessing homophobic behavior, that's different. You mean you're sickened by witnessing homosexual behavior. But even then, it's pretty natural for a heterosexual not to be attracted to homosexual behavior. As I would almost debate you on that, because we know that there are many heterosexual men that are in fact turned on by two women kissing. But I digress. As long as you're not expressing this outwardly and offensively, it's no one's business, and I don't see the problem. And you shouldn't take any more offense from someone firmly denying that they're homosexual any more than you would be offended by someone denying feelings for someone. If Bill is shocked and denies feelings for Susie, it should not be seen any different from Bill denying feelings for John. If he's a bit more shocked, it's simply because he's not attracted to men at all. It doesn't have to mean he believes there's something inherently wrong with homosexuals. So I get what you're saying with this example here. I personally think maybe we shouldn't compare queer experience with straight experience. So I don't know that I'll comment too much on it, but I also think that, yeah, if I said something to Bill about, oh, are you Bill, or are you Bill, are you dating John? And he says, no, I'm straight. That's one thing. Then, my bad. But then if I say, Bill, are you dating John? I was like, oh my gosh, no, that's so gross. I mean, those are more the reactions that we're counting on. And I think I was talking about in the previous episode. And that's certainly what I've experienced more, and what we're talking about. This may have came up maybe with Shayna's email, but I frankly have more of the latter and not much of the former, because yeah, I mean, as you know, or people know, I like to ship my students, so I get many of the reactions of like, "You gross, I don't like him," kind of thing, but and not in the way of "you gross," that's deviant behavior, I'm not gay kind of thing. Yeah, so I guess, I see what you're saying, but again, I just don't think that we can say or compare experiences, because they're just different. We can't there's no apples and apples here. And then finally, I'd prefer to keep platonic relationships the way they are. I don't appreciate long-standing characters suddenly changing their orientation and making out with their friends. And he's got some eyes. Not every relationship has to be romantic, regardless of their genders. Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with you. I had mixed feelings about the Iceman coming out in, was it All New X-Men? Just because it was very new. It was very new. And, you kind of wonder like, oh, is there kind of some previous evidence of all of this going on? But then you also think, well, people come out all the time, and sometimes it's shocking, and sometimes you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that does make sense. So I agree with you. I think that was one of I assume you're agreeing with me, because I also said that, Cass and Steph are fine as friends. If we really needed to make them romantic, I think you really got to prove it. And to wrap up, thanks for the great podcast. Even if we don't always agree on everything, sweaty emoji, and then keep it up. And then there's a wink. So yeah, thanks for all your comments. I think, sorry, I've just forgotten really where some of the comments I may not have gone to explain well. Some of the comments I may not have responded to well, just because I don't know what you're responding to. So I did the best though. But I appreciate, obviously, everyone's time when they write something in. I know that is laborious sometimes. And Adam, you wrote in a lot, so I appreciate that. Okay, well, now we're going to move on to some actual comments. Okay, so Batman 126, I will say that Babs is in there. She is coordinating and organizing as Batman is fighting this failsafe character. And she also contacts Leslie Tompkins once Batman is injured, and she's talking to other members of the Bat family. A weird looking Leslie Tompkins, by the way. Apparently, they DH'd her even more. I remember when they initially DH'd her, but now she's really DH'd. And the Batgirls also appear to help. And then we have, and she's not in here very much, but I don't know. Now it's just, I think, knee jerk maybe, or it is just tradition to cover some Nightwing. And hopefully Nightwing, I don't know when I'll stop, if I stop, but hopefully it will continue being really good and have some of these people in it. So these people that I care for, that is. I can still no longer read these synopses because even when I grabbed it, I noticed that it had nothing to do. Bless me. It had nothing to do with what was going on. So if I were to quickly give you a synopsis of this, if you remember, Dick's sister had been found out and then trussed up, and Nightwing luckily has come very quickly to go and help her. And now there's this fight between Blockbuster and Nightwing, also this guy that they had in lockup was about to spill the beans for a deal, but of course one of the people in the police department is on Blockbuster's payroll and kills him. Maggie Sawyer's not happy about it, and Batwoman shows up, which immediately I thought, how's this going to go down? And well, yeah, how's this going to go down in multiple ways? Number one, do Kate and Maggie even know about each other? Because, you know, all retcons and all that business. And then number two, if they do know about each other, then how are they going to get along? I, interesting. Sorry, I saw this image and I wondered, the first time I read this, I thought that's not Huntress, is it? And now I guess it is, but I'm confused at her use of a bow staff slash the scream sticks. But anyways, yeah, so there are many different cameos here. Golly, Duke Thomas is even in there. And they all plan to stop some crimes that Blockbuster is in charge of. So everyone, you know, coordinating, of course, is Oracle. And then Blockbuster does a real dirty thing and destroys the Haven, and in particular, Alfred's statue. And now we have an actual battle. Look at that. Looks horrifying right there with Blockbuster's two meaty hands on the children. And then of course, what's Dick gonna do? But he kneels before Zod, aka Blockbuster, and then Blockbuster does that huge ground pound that often Hulk does. And look at this. How was his mask affixed if it just came off with a little punch? And so this is just not a good thing because Dick Grayson has been unmasked. Was that the end of it? Go up one. Oh yeah, Dick Grayson now he's even angrier. So secrets no more. So that's what happens here. The synopsis didn't talk about that at all. I think of, you know, what I have to say. Obviously, it's a really great issue and had fun. I'm wondering if, I mean, may have missed something, but I do wonder if number one, this woman's name is Audrey and it's spelled like Audrey Lorde. So I don't know if that's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But is Audrey more than a bodyguard? Because we know that Mercy Graves, was at times more than a bodyguard to Lex. And Dick's sister seems to care about her. And yeah, she wasn't supposed to follow. I told her I'd be okay. So I don't know. It seems like there might be something more, but I won't do any leapings. I This is interesting about Maggie. And of course, she's facing corruption as all of these people do. Hopefully, there's some sort of corruption anonymous, leaders of a corrupted office anonymous that she and Renee Montoya can go hang out in, which I'll get to Renee Montoya soon enough. But at least she has Dan Turpin. And then when Batwoman showed up, I thought, uh-oh, this could get tricky. Now, unfortunately, no icicle bubbles were used, but she says at one point, it seems directed to Batman. Yeah, I get you're here. What does that say? I get you're here. Yeah, I get you're here so that I trust what you're saying, Batwoman, but I've made the mistake of trusting you before. And then Dick says, I don't know what this is. And yeah, so it's a bit awkward. And was it here also when they had another conversation? Thank you, Batwoman. We'll take it from here. And then Dick says, what's with you two? I thought you and Sawyer were close. And she said, we were. I was supposed to marry her. And then Dick says, why didn't you? And she says, a mixture of stubbornness, stupidity, and fear. I told myself I was doing it for her, but it's the biggest mistake I've ever made. But if you read that without reading that bottom panel, if you see that bubble, a mixture of stubbornness, stupidity, and fear, could it not double for what was going on in the DC offices at the time with what Williams and gosh, I can't remember the other person. Uh that creative team basically wanting to marry Maggie and Batwoman and told that they couldn't do it. So that totally doubles. I feel like I'm not giving Tom Taylor too much credit because we know that he has some tongue-in-cheek jokes like the woman in refrigerator. So if he's saying something, I think he could be saying something right there. So good for you. I don't know. Does she have her own book? I don't know what she's doing. But if she keeps popping up or Maggie keeps popping up, maybe we'll see a rekindling. Though this book is packed enough. I don't know if we can have all of that go on as well. So, yeah, Blockbuster and Nightwing, I think this is just classic Nightwing and to have them go up against each other and also just showing who Blockbuster is using kids as shields or using them as a threat. And of course, Dick is going to lay down his life for them. And now, what is the significance or impact of Dick being unmasked and what can Blockbuster do with it? And I feel like we've had villains in the past that have this knowledge but end up not using it publicly because they can do more if it is on the down low, but I don't know if that's necessarily something that he will keep close to his chest or not. So, per usual, a great issue, and I'm interested in what happens. And depending on if Maggie, well, I don't know if Maggie would be in any other book because she's Bluehaven PD, but yeah, if Maggie stays there, I wonder if we'll see Batwoman be another character. But I think the only way you could do that is Edge. How can you? You'd have to push out Babs, but then you, like, lose and she's got this book, but then do you wanna bring Nightwing in there? It's, like, very I'm conflicted about how we can see some of these relationships continue. I guess Tom Taylor, just make Nightwing a 36-page comic all the time. Wait, I guess it is 32. Just make it a 48-page comic every month. Okay. So now we're on the main event, and I am noticing that I didn't make too many notes. And I think that's more because, I mean, spoiler, I did enjoy this. I thought that it was a pretty fun romp. I do have some concerns, but of course, I will get to that. And then if we just look at this cover, yeah, no Babs in sight. It's very summerific, which is great. Batgirl summer, but it is, wait. There's a weird that is supposed to be Steph, right? It looks like it's orange hair. red hair, but I'm pretty sure that that's supposed to be Stephanie Brown. Um, yeah, it's clearly her costume. Okay. But weird coloring on that. But yeah, no Babs in with the exception of the weird colored hair. Maybe it's because it might have been if Gorf were here, I'm sure he would probably agree with me, but the fact that that yellow is really strong in the background, that if you had more yellow of the hair would have blend in maybe and blended in and yeah, you can kind of see it at the edges there, but a bit confusing. Okay, here we go. Batgirl's number 9, Batgirl Summer. Story Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, art Neil Gooch. Colors Rico Renzi, The Hill, Gotham City. Grace O'Halloran has left her cushy job and now is running a pro Batgirl nightly news podcast. At least she can drink martinis wherever she wants, right? Or whenever, really. Elsewhere, Mr. Green bags up a bunch of body parts and creeps outside right before a knife is revealed, specifically a Spades T handle push dagger. During the day, I swear, if the FBI is looking at my search history, they'll find some very strange things, I have to tell you. During the day, Babs meets up with what? Alicia? Oh, at a cafe called Truffles with an angry cat as an emblem. Alicia has set up a bar and cafe. I couldn't tell if it was actually Truffles, maybe it was, and promises to bring samples by the loft and hang out more with Babs. She doesn't mention her wife, Jo, so I don't know if Jo's been forgotten or not, or maybe it was just a quick sort of conversation so we don't get to know her. But honestly, if you're meeting up, when you'd be like, how's your wife? How's Jo doing? Anyways, Babs talks about her physical therapy and how her day to day is. Meanwhile, an emo looking Cassandra is at the bookshop again, this time looking at some Poe. And Steph is conducting surveillance on Green's apartment when they both get a call from Oracle telling them to get ready. They have lured KG Beast to the hill in order to get back at him for what he did to Nightwing. Thought we already did that in the pages of Nightwing, but okay. Steph distracts, Oracle hacks, Cass attacks. The Batgirls take him down and bag him up for the cops. Suddenly, something swoops past Steph and causes her to lose her balance from the roof into the dumpster below. So, shenanigans. It happens to be where Mr. Green dumps his trash, and Steph finds many mannequin body parts in a bag. She somewhat wishes they were real, but be careful what you wish for, as an actual body appears, and it is, dun dun dun, Mr. Green himself, stabbed to death. They update Oracle, then do some detectiving, grabbing some evidence, which is probably messing up the crime scene, before the police arrive. They also take an eye out because it's a fake and was planted. Steph keeps her gag reflex in check and pulls out the eye. And I don't know why it wasn't Cass who pulled out the eye, but the job went to Cass. Wait, what? I don't know why it wasn't Cass who pulled out the eye, but the job went to Steph. Commissioner Renee Montoya, when did that happen? Is my question. I must have missed it. Comes across the crime scene and zeroes in on the Cass and Steph batarangs. Back at HQ, she doesn't look too happy, by the way. Back at HQ, Babs checks on Steph, who feels partially responsible for Green's death because she made an assumption based on his demeanor and supported those assumptions with confirmation bias. Babs assures her it wasn't her fault. The girls examine the false eye and discover a seam, and upon rather dangerously opening it without PPE, they discover a note with a cipher. They immediately wonder if the killer has been leaving clues the whole time, but who can say since the GCPD hasn't released information? The girls suggest Babs hack them, but she's unsure, ethically speaking. Watching them from outside the building is my favorite guy, Killer Moth. Next up, like a moth to a flame. Okay, so first off, I have to say, and I will talk about the art is actually it's touch and go for me. It depends on the characters. Like right here, I feel like, yeah, this is great art. I like Alicia here. I think Asian character designs are tricky because you have to be respectful, but also make it clear that it's an Asian character. And so I think that Googe did a good job, or Goog, might be Googe. I should look that up. But then we get to Cass, and we make some strange. This is a strange design decision, in my opinion. And I like how it says bookworm, but it's just fishnets, short shorts, And flats? I don't know. And Donovan had sent me a still of this when he had a review copy and said that she looked like some character from Invader Zim, and I've never watched that, but it 100% does. But it's just interesting choices here. I mean, maybe they're trying to contrast her style with Steph's, but so overall, like I said, yeah, touch and go, I think with or positives and negatives maybe is the best in regards to the art here. And of course, we're changing from Robbie Rodriguez, so we just have to get used to it. Here's the question: is alcoholism funny? I mean, obviously the answer is no. And I've, of course, made jokes around Grace, and I always put it in my synopsis if she has a drink because she often is a bit tipsy when she's doing some stuff. And even Cass has been saying that that woman's got some issues and all of that. But we have another thing here. She's got her martini, and it could be like company because I even made that comment to my chief Tata correspondent herself, Professor Carolyn Coca, that I wondered if Bobby, in the adaptation we watched, of course, if Bobby was an alcoholic, because every scene, even though the scenes aren't time wise back to back to back, she was drinking. And I thought, wow, there's just lots of alcohol involved with these, or even drugs involved with these scenes. But every time we see Grace, she has a drink, and she does seem like she's tipsy, and I'm wondering how long we're going to go with this. Like, is this just a character, uh, kind of a funny character quirk that or we're trying to make it funny, or are we gonna lead to something that this maybe her drinking causes some sort of issue and she's gotta get help? I don't know. But at this point, we're 9 issues in, and this is consistent. I would like to know the purpose of it. And maybe some of you out there just feel like this too much. You're giving it too hard of a time, but it's clear that this is a character detail that when you think Grace O'Halloran, you not only think reporter, but you also think that she's probably got a couple drinks in her. So I guess I have questions as to why and where we're going with it. Yeah, so Alicia returns. And I do feel like this cat, I feel like I've seen a cat similar to this. I don't know if is that Burger the cat or on Instagram where there are some cats that look like that. They look very grumpy, but they're very pleasant. Because reels on Instagram, basically the cats and the corgi bottoms are what infiltrate my reels. But here we have Alicia, which I was astounded to see her catching up as if no time had passed. Why, I wonder? So, have we seen Frankie in this run? I don't think so. When was the last time that we did see Frankie? It's been a little while. So, we're bringing some people back. Frankie would have been the most recent to come back, but she hasn't. Frankie would also be a good person to bring back in terms of having good and bad days and talking with Babs about that. I guess Babs is managing on her own. But Alicia here is an interesting choice because, yes, I've never forgotten Alicia. The writers have, but I wondered if this was because of the movie. And we know that comics are written in advance. So let's say that what do you think, 3 months ago this comic was written? That was, of course, well before the news that the Batgirl film was being closed, taken down quite rudely. Shelved might be the best word. So this might have been a way to bring this character back knowing that she was going to be in the film. But I wonder, I want to give the writers credit. I feel like they've done their research, but I do wonder about her wife because that was, I feel like, a pretty big thing. It was also a slap in the face that, these minor queer characters can get married, but major queer characters cannot. Not saying that the minor queer characters shouldn't, but just saying, like, why can't everybody get married? But yeah, I guess I would say because I normally do that. If I see someone after a long time or even, catching up with them, I would ask about their significant other. So the fact that Babs doesn't ask how Joe is shocking to me. And that makes me think that Joe's been forgotten, but here Alicia is. So I do like how much Cass is reading. And I found it interesting, these purple boxes here, because I wonder if the purple box person, whoever writes that, did her their research, his, her, their. Let's see. The purple boxes say the following. While we were in grade school reading the classics, Cass was being trained how to kill, not a fun way to grow up. Babs taught her that it's never too late to start, though. One book and Cass was hooked. She's been going through a book a week. Reading is fundamental. And I'm not there yet in my reread, but I'm just remembering the struggle that Cass had reading, that she really didn't want to do it very often. And then, of course, Barbara just completely blows up at her. So we've not included that purple box person. But yeah, it makes it also seem just that it wasn't a struggle. Like it took her one book and then she's good to go. I think the purple box person does make it seem easier than it really was. And that could have been an interesting either the purple box or in the actual page to show because I feel like there's not too much representation of people that have reading disabilities. And that was certainly something that she had a speech disability as well that Cass had. And so mentioning that and not making it sound easy. And we also know that kids in general, young adults, have trouble with reading, whether that's attention or just not being interested. So I think there could have been this page is okay, but I just feel like you had an opportunity to talk a bit more deeply about her struggles and then also make it an encouragement for, young adults that there are cool things to read and to not give up on it if you just don't like the required reading in your school. Okay. Yeah, the KG Beast, I mean, this whole thing is very interesting. Yeah, so this is art that I don't like. I don't like how why are her eyes so bugged out like that? I don't like how Steph is. I mean, it's funny to see the eyeball through the viewfinder or the binocular, but actually it's just ocular because there's only one. But yeah, the bottom there, I'm like, yeah, that's not really that attractive. But it's funny. So they entrap in KG Beast, basically, they trick him to come over to take him down and get even up the score. But I misremembering? So he was taken out by Wally, wasn't he? And then in Nightwing, and Wally basically said this was for Dick. And shouldn't he have been taken away at that point in time, or did he get away? It's been a little while since I've read that team up issue, but it just seems a bit overkill. And also, it's interesting that Dick doesn't have much agency, does he? Because all these people are taking out KG Beast, but Dick. Shouldn't he be the one to be like, you did this to me. Now I'm coming after you? Okay. I do like, yes, yes, when Steph said, I am distraction incarnate. And it kind of seems like something that I would probably run into battle saying as well. I also liked when Babs, who is actually Oracle here and coordinating things, hacks into his HUD almost, and really is a HUD, and how she basically gives, I don't know, a virus or something, implants a worm maybe, and you've got, oh, that kind of seems dangerous. Why did she do that? This is a big error. I didn't even notice that before, but Steph and Cass, for the most part, in their digital representations are protected, though I don't know why Steph's mask isn't on. Barbara wouldn't have done that. It wouldn't have been Barbara's face. It would have been the Oracle mask. Uh-oh. That's a big no-no. I most likely on behalf of the artist, and then it goes to the writer who probably gave that direction. But we can blame Babs, but that was a bad look right there. And then at the very end, of course, discovering this dead body. And now there are multiple problems with this. I think the fact that Barbara encourages them, if you're going to collect evidence, better do it quick because they are messing up the crime scene. And I think some of the things they could absolutely take and leave other stuff. So just take a piece of something and then leave. But the fact that they take the eyeball, I think, is a big no-no, and messing around a bit with the body. I feel like Batman doesn't do this much obstruction as, or what is it called? Something, a crime scene. I can't remember. Oh man, this is a bad episode with me like forgetting names of different things. Anyways, there we go. So messing up the crime scene, we'll just go with that. And then the eyeball is, I think, a big no-no. And here's Renee. Someone will have to write in and tell me. Thought I was going to ask Donovan about this of why Renee is in here, but I did not. I forgot to do that. So Renee, I mean, when did she become commissioner? Basically, I think it's awesome, but I just wondered when that happened. And hopefully, KG Beast actually stays there. I do like this moment between Babs and Steph, just that Steph feels guilty over profiling Green just on his grumpiness and saying that, oh, that must have been, what caused his murder because I was just suspicious of him and wasn't looking elsewhere. And so the real murderer got to Mr. Green. And it's a learning experience, I think, but Babs isn't hard on her and says, listen, these two things don't have to do with each other and it is not your fault. And so I did like that. And then I will call my girl out as a hypocrite, unfortunately, because Cass and Steph are saying you should hack the GCPD. And Baz is like, well, I could, but I don't know if I should, ethically speaking. And I just say, well, that she's a hypocrite because of what she did in the first part of this episode. So she's hacked many a thing that she should not have. Obviously, she's taken funds from Blockbuster. And I know she's stolen things that he's stolen. But then there's also Hideo Kojima. Thank you, brain. Hideo Kojima is the person who did this horror psychological thriller walking simulator demo thing. And then he also did Metal Gear Solid. So there you go. And also I think what is it? The NSA, or like she had gotten some missile codes. The Pentagon was something else that she hacked. I'm trying to think of all the places that she hacked. So I don't know where this ethical quandary is coming from when she has clearly done it other places. And then of course my best guy shows up. I don't know why he was is he the murderer? That would be weird. That seems kind of strange for Killer Moth to be killing people, but you do wonder why he was at that roof when Steph gets knocked off. Where is that? Yeah, right here. Yeah, I guess it is him. But why? Why? Unless he did that on purpose in order to find the clues of the mannequin and then the dead body. So maybe Mr. Green was Killer Moth's friend and he's trying to avenge him, but no one would believe him. Maybe this could be a really positive, uplifting tale for Killer Moth. I guess we'll see. But there he is, my guy. You know what? I thought that this, besides some questions that I have and some major errors, i.e., Barbara showing her face on someone's HUD and her ethical speaking and maybe forgetting about Joe, that this was a pretty fun little romp and got to see the girls having some summer fun and everything. And yeah, I don't think it was too bad. And some, touch and go or plus and minus art. So I would give this an 8.5 out of 10 cup nudes. Okay, so rounding out, I will say that for anime watch list, I am currently watching Dota Dragon's Blood Book 3. I feel like I've talked about the first two books on this show, but this is book 3 that just came out, I think last week or something like that. I primarily watch it for Mirana. I think she's probably my favorite character, and I would like to see her and Davion get together and be together forever. And best gal pal Marcy, may she rest in peace. But yes, it is very interesting. I've never played the games, but I do like the characters. And I think, yeah, the last thing is literature recommendations. Okay, I'm pretty sure I talked about Jane Erotica. I don't recommend it, but if you really want to hear about it, you can go on to Dear Reader episode 9. And again, I don't recommend it, but there it is. And I also finished Invincible, the series. I read the third compendium and then I watched the show. And luckily, I was prepared for the violence. And it's interesting because I had heard about the ultra violence and I was prepared for it in the first episode, like, even at the very beginning with the 2 security guards talking, I thought, "Oh, someone's gonna get blown up and I'll see all his bits." But no, it's a pretty, like, calm episode until the very end, and I thought, "Oh, I know what's coming." Which they actually gave more agency to the Guardians of the Globe because in the comic, o Omni-Man basically shreds them, and they don't get any hits in on him, and so this was a bit different. But episode 8 was also very rough to watch. So just, prepare yourself if you're gonna do it. So, I also, because I've had 2 weeks off, I got the next 4 books of the Thursday Next series by Jasper Ford, The Well of Lost Plots, Something Rotten, First Among Sequels, and then one of our Thursdays is missing, which is the one that I'm currently reading. And they're just really fun and really smart and almost a book about books and fiction. So I recommend that. I also finished listening to The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. So another mystery. And I was proud of myself for having called, I was guessing who got killed and who did it, I think, was a bit in question, but I did guess who was her stalker of the person, of one of the people in there, and I was right about that. And then I also guessed that 2 people were having an affair, and so I was very proud of myself for all that. And I think I'm also reading or listening to, and I should be finished by the time this airs, Hooked: How Crafting Saved My Life, which is a memoir by Sutton Foster. If you're a fan of Broadway, then you might like that. And yeah, I've been enjoying that. And I like to get the audiobooks of memoirs because oftentimes the actual writer reads them. And so that's pretty cool to hear their words with their own voice. So I think that's it. Yeah, I got myself into a bit of a library pickle because I had requested the library to bring into circulation the next 2 Thrawn books from, I can't remember, Ascension or Ascendancy, because they had the first one. So that was my reason. You have the first one. Can you have the next 2? And when I was in Europe, I got an email that one was coming in and I got a hold on it and everything. So I get it when I come back from Europe. And I thought, this seems strange. I don't think this is the second one. It wasn't, it was the third. So I couldn't do anything about it because I only read the first one. And then the second one, I guess, was also put in circulation, but someone else already had it. So then I had to put a hold on it. Meanwhile, I get the next 4 Thursday Next books and really 2 at a time. I did 2. And then Tom decided what our October book is going to be, which is going to be a Stephen King novel. So I had to put that on hold. And then all at once, I had 2 Thursday Next books come in, the Stephen King and the second Thrawn. Plus, I had the third Thrawn already, and then, finishing up a Thursday Next. So it just unfortunately happens. These are like first world library problems, but it just always seems to happen where there's an onslaught of books that I have on hold, and it might be a drought up till then, but here we are. So the Thursday Next, that's not a problem, but I've got to figure out about the Thrawn and the Stephen King so I can be ready for our recording next month, but I'll figure it out. Okay. Well, remember you can send any questions or comments to backrolltheoracle@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter at backrolltheoracle. And like the show on YouTube, or really just subscribe to it and you can see this uncut version that you're watching right now. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. And support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Backroll the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And until next time, fly on, Babs lovers.